Did you see that when DB came back and played for us, that they got mad that Orphan Base was booing her? I don't believe in booing former players unless they left. Unlike some typey thought they could keep the Walsup forever. Controlling who? Spoke what was said, and when the world got to hear it. But the second Sophie Cunningham panned her mouth, that entire WNBA media playbook went up in flames. What started as a simple podcast conversation about Aframer teammates' messy exit turned into a full-on earthquake, shaking Thelige's old guard to its core. She didn't just tell her side of the story. She bulldozed through every out-data drool, bypassed the usual ESPN spin, ignored the league's carefully crafted PR scripts, and spoke directly to Theffens in a way no so-called insider ever dared to. And the numbers prove it. Sophie just showed every player from Caitlin Clark to the Indiana Fever Seahawks rookies that they don't need Gacy media to control the narrative. They can own it themselves. This wasn't a slip-up or a soundbite taken out off context. This was a calculated, unapologetic, gloves-off moment that could change the balance of power in women's basketball forever. Sophie Cunningham didn't just stumble into this moment. She kicked the door wide open and walked straight through it.
On her pad.
What started as a casual back and forth about Dana Bonner's sudden and mosey departure from Indiana quickly morphed into something far bigger. Something that exposed cracks in a system the WNBA's media machine has spent years trying to hide. She reminded everyone that for too long only a select few were allowed to tell the story, and those stories were carefully filtered to fit a safe league image. But Sophie's not playing that game. She went straight to the fans, speaking in their language, direct, competitive, and unapologetically real. And in doing so, she made it clear that players like her and Caitlin Clark don't need a middleman to be heard. No ESPN segment, no athletic column, no corporate-approved interview could match the raw engagement Sophie pulled in by simply telling either self. The old guard, their rattled Becco's Sophie, just proved that their gatekeeping isn't made of stone. It's made of paper, and it's starting to burn. The numbers alone tell the story if old media doesn't want you to notice. While ESPN was busy pretending Caitlin Clark's record-breaking nights weren't newsworthy. Sophie's audience cloud 1.6 million on TikTok, 1.1 million on Instagram, bigger than Manyoff, the so-called insider repertoire scumbend. Here's the part. Thatcherly twists the knife. She didn't buy ads. She didn't beg for coverage. She didn't sit through endless media training to learn how to sound safe. She earned every follower by cutting through noise and giving fans something real. And then came the tipping point. Sophie revealed that her podcast isn't some side project in a spare bedroom. It's backed by Colin Cowherd's Thevolume, one of the most influential sports media networks out there. That's not charity. That's strategy. They saw what the legacy outlets refused to see, that unfiltered, player-driven instantly brushes. The sterile, sponsor-approved sound bites every single time, and the ripple effect. Other one players are watching her success and realizing they've been playing by rules that it's never actually protected them. Rules designed to keep the power in the hands of gatekeepers who are now scrambling to survive. What makes Sophie's move so dangerous to the old guard is that she didn't have to twist their words or sneak around to make ETH happen. She just told the truth from the perspective of someone who was actually in the locker room.
Oh no.
Unknown amount sources, no. Watered down quotes now, in for a reporter to massage Thestry into something safe. She laid it out exactly as she saw it. Bonner Comito, Indiana, wasn't happy and made her exit without so much as a text to her teammates. And Sophie didn't trash her for it. She was clear Bonner's a Hall of Famer, one of the most talented scorers league's ever seen. But there's a right way to handle your departure and ghosting your team, isn't it? The nasty cuts deep because it's coming from someone who lived it, not some own guessing from the outside. Right. And in that meant, Sophie showed every player in the league that they don't have to tiptoe around the truth just to keep the media happy. They can own their narrative and still have the fans on their side, even if it means calling out a veteran or breaking an unspoken code. The fact that she could do it without losing her audience, fact-growing itis, exactly why traditional sports reporters are sweating right now. Their all-power move here is that Sophie Snout just talking into the void. She's backed by a machine that knows exactly how to amplify her voice. Colin Cowherd's The Volume didn't sign her Tautica diversity box or throw a tuckanod to women's sports. They signed her because they saw what ESPN, The Athletic, and every other legacy outlet refused to admit. Raw, unfiltered player content outperforms polished, sponsor-safe coverage every time. That's why Sophie's show isn't just a podcast. It's a blueprint for a new era of WNBA mediaware. The players control the message, not the gatekeepers. And the old school insiders know it, which is why they're an O in full scramble mode, rushing Talik. Down deals with other players, before they lose the last bit of control they have. They're watching sufficient crush theirs. They're seeing your audience show up in real time. Andy can't compete because fans cans mail the difference between authentic and manufactured. This isn't just about Bonner or Caitlin Clark or Indiana. This is about a league-wide shift where every player with a phone and a platform can bash the system entirely and still win. And once that door is open, there's no going back. When Sophie looked straight into the mic and called Thepapole saying, "Caitlin Clark, isn't Thefus of the league dumb?" It wasn't a slip. It was a deliberate shot across the bow. Fans heard it loud and clear. In that single moment, she lined herself with the fastest-growing, most passionate fan base in women's basketball and made clear she's not afraid to burn bridges with old guard to stand on the side after it. While legacy media was busy tiptoeing around the narrative with safe phrases like, "She just needs time," Sophie ripped through the fluff and said exactly what millions of viewers were already thinking. She spoke to the fans in their own language. No polished pleans, no guarded sponsor approved compliments, just raw, blunt loyalty. And the response was immediate. Engagement spiked. Her clips went viral, and suddenly the league's inner circle was forced to face the reality that the most magnetic voice in the room wasn't coming from behind a desk at ESPN. It was coming from a player in the middle of the fight. That's why her words didn't just stir controversy. They shifted the conversation, making her not just part of the story, but the one driving it. Sophie Cunningham just took WNBA's unspoken Protect the Veterans code and ripped it to shreds. For years there's been this quiet agreement. You didn't call out the inner circle. You didn't expose the politics. And you definitely don't give the fans a Riasanto question the league's golden names. Sophie didn't just ignore that rule. She rushed it under her shoe. She told the truth about Bonner's messy exit. Not because it was safe or easy, but because it was real. And that's exactly what fans have been starving for. Will traditional outlets danced around it. And here's the twist that should have old guard losing sleep. Sophie isn't doing this in isolation. Every time she speaks up, she gives other players permission to do the same. Younger stars, fringe players, and even established veterans are looking at her numbers and realizing, hey, they don't need to stay quiet to keep their careers intact. They can speak directly to millions, own their narrative, and grow their brand without asking anyone for permission. The second that becomes the norm, that traditional media's monopoly over what gets to tell the story doesn't just crack, it collapses completely. What we're watching now isn't just one player speaking out. It's the start of a full-scale shift in how WNBA stars communicate with the world. Sophie Success has completely flipped the incentive system. Before, players stuck to polished PR-approved answers because Ethy thought they needed the immediate platforms to stay relevant. Now they're realizing the opposite is true. Authenticity drives more attention, more loyalty, and more opportunities than any scripted interview ever could. Her model is simple but powerful. Cut out the middlemen, speak directly to the fans, and don't be afraid to ruffle feathers if it means telling the truth. And their salts are impossible to ignore. Huge engagement spikes, viral moments, an fan base that feels personally connected. That's why we're already hearing whispers of other big-name players preparing to launch their own shows, bypassing the old media japers entirely. The proof-off concept is right in front of them, and they know that once fans get used to hearing straight from the athletes, they're not going back to sanitized coverage. The balance of power has shifted, and every new player who follows Sophie's lead will make it harder for the old system to ever take control again. The real nightmare fourth old guard is that Sophie's influence isn't tied to her stat sheet. It's untouchable. She's proven you don't have to be the league MVP to become a media powerhouse. You just have to be authentic, consistent, and fearless. That means even players outside the spotlight can build massive platforms, reach millions directly, and bypass the corporate filter entirely. And once that BHL comes common, the traditional access game dies because what are they selling if they can't control the story anymore? The Bonner drama might have been Thespark, but Sophie turned it into a blueprint for the future of athlete-fan communication. She showed that bin grill, even when it ruffles feathers, generates more loyalty and engagement than any polished press release. Fans don't want middlemen. They want the raw story from the people who lived it. Sophie gave it to them with hesitation. That's why this isn't just a viral moment. It's a media revolution inside the WNBA. And the outlets that can't adapt are about to fade into the WNBA media landscape I thought existed even 6 months ago is already gone. It just hasn't had its funeral yet. Sophie Cunningham didn't chip away at the system. She bulldozed it, proving that players don't need Gazea outlets, scripted talking points, or sponsor-approved fluff to own their story and grow their audience. She's shown every athlete in the league that's most valuable currency isn't controlled access. It's authenticity. And once you realize you can speak directly to millions without asking permission, you never go back to playing by someone else's rules. The old guardy's in full-blown panic because they know the moment more play